So I just want to make sure I got that right and emphasize this for the women listening to John. And that was, you said, don't fully trust your emotions unless you're feeling love. So in other words, our emotions are not necessarily logical, or they're not necessarily something we want to fully trust if we're feeling more of those negative emotions. I just want to make sure we're really clear on what you mean by that.
You know, this is a subject that takes a lot of emotional intelligence to really get what I'm saying. So let's go a little deeper into that, because people will argue to their death why they feel so hurt, okay, or why they hate somebody, or why, you know, why they're upset. We use the external world to justify our unhappiness. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could recognize that the external world triggers our unhappiness, but we are capable of letting go of that by challenging the logic behind the emotion, okay? Which is, let's say you're with you're dating and a guy doesn't call back. Okay, so what are some of your conclusions you're gonna have? Often women feel hurt. You know, maybe you opened yourself up and then he pulled away. Well, you feel like, oh, I feel so hurt. Well, now let's challenge what that hurt is about. Did he hurt you? Actually, you had a good time on the date. He just didn't call you back. That triggers feelings of hurt. So you have to ask yourself why you feel hurt. You had an expectation that he was going to call you back if you had sex with him or you spent this time with him. And you have this belief system, he should have called you back if he was a good person. Well, maybe he had sex with you and realized that he's just not into you. You're not the right person for him. And he didn't want to call you because you'd say, well, why didn't you call back? And he'd give you detailed instructions why you're the wrong person, and he doesn't want to hurt you. So not that he's a bad person, he was just not into you. But where does the hurt come from? That doesn't cause hurt just because somebody's not into you. When I go out on the streets every day, people ignore me all the time. They're just not into me. Many people read my book and don't like it and throw it away. Just many more do like it. But you know, that's not about me, that's about them. So we take things personally that are not about us. It's about them. Or maybe he didn't call you back because he has an intimacy problem. That's not about you. It says he has a problem. It'd be like saying, hey, if you care about me, if I'm a lovable person, then you're in a wheelchair because you have a problem, you should stand up and walk. Well, he can't do that. You see, we personalize everything. That's where the pain comes from. If you go deep into the feeling of hurt, you're scared. It triggers a button inside of you that says, I'm scared no one will ever love me. I'm scared I'll never get the love I need in my life. I've been out with several men and this has happened each time. Is there something wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with me. Something's wrong with them. See, we get in all these logical loops because we're just not understanding where our feelings come from, these faulty conclusions, expectations, and demands that we have inside, as opposed to learning from every experience without taking it personally. So this is a big challenge. You know, I've got over 10 hours at my Facebook Live on healing the heart. We have to recognize that all of our painful emotions have to do with other things. So that's why they're not fully logical. They're understandable. They're valid. That's what you feel. But to acknowledge that right now, something that happened or yesterday happened, causing that to make me feel this, that's an illusion. Imagine your husband leaves the light on and you want him to turn the light out. That was a big frustration for my wife. We have a big house and I would leave lights on and she's turning out lights all the time. Well, the first time I did it, my husband didn't turn out the light. I had to turn out the light. It's not upsetting. It's when it happens again and again and again and again, you form a conclusion that my husband doesn't love me. He doesn't care about me. What I want is not important. Are those things true? No, but you feel so frustrated and so hurt inside. He didn't do what he said he was going to do. And you feel like, I just can't trust. And what does that mean? Not I just can't trust him to turn out the light. It means I can't trust that he loves me. So that's an exaggerated experience based upon other experiences, as opposed to being logical in this moment. What am I feeling? Now you add to that same thing. This is what Freud explained. It was the basis of modern psychology, which is that whenever you have an emotional reaction, if it's not really close to loving, you're overreacting. Basically, let's say I come home and my husband's left, you're a woman, and your husband's left shoes and mess around the house. Well, let's say you just won the lottery and you had many wonderful things happen that day and you come home and there's a mess. You know, you'd have a problem with it. But because you had such a bad day, 5 things happen, you're going to be 5 times more upset. 20 things happen, you're going to be 20 times more upset. You're going to, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, he's done it again. You see, other things contribute to our emotions, and the emotions just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And not only do we have the things that have happened all day today, but in the last 10 years of the marriage, then you've got your whole childhood compounded. Okay, so if I felt I was never appreciated by my parents, I'm a man, and I never felt good enough from my parents, then all my wife has to do is look at me and go, how could you do that? And I go, how can you look at me that way? You know, and you get all upset with your partner. And the problem with marriage and the problem with dating, when you have sex with somebody, as soon as you have sex 3 or 4 times, you activate all of your childhood wounds. Suddenly, you're no longer just 2 people having a conversation in a simple disagreement, making fun of each other. Why would you say that? Well, I was just kidding you. Well, that's no big deal. Don't worry about it. You can take that stuff. But then once you're having sex, all the rules change at that time. You know, sex changes everything. Yeah. So we have to recognize a whole different set of rules come into play if you're going to have a sexual, intimate relationship. And so everybody who's listening, I know, have been in sexual relationships and it dried up. Why does it dry up? Because we don't know these relationship skills that I teach, which some women who are more cynical and burnt out will call it coddling. And you know, it'd be like, how do you treat a man if you want to have him continue to desire for you in sex? Not like a child, but even more considerate, with more love, because you've got to throw in admiration. You've got to throw in asking for help and all kinds of new skills that women today are not taught. So it's a big picture, but boy, what a fun thing to do is to learn this stuff through dating. If you have a guide, and that's why you're doing this for people, is why I do this for people. Let's have a guide for us to find true love and find out what love really is, not this resentment and lack of forgiveness and indulging and complaining and negative emotions and judging. I've seen it all as a counselor, whatever. And every time anybody comes to me over 40 years, and mostly it was more women than men that come to counselors. That's 90% statistically. And every time a woman tends to want to, how do I change him? How do I get him to do this? And always I listen to their feelings to build, understanding and give her what she needs to lower her stress levels so she can then hear how she is responsible for everything that happens in her life. And sometimes women hear me talk and they say, oh, he's just letting men off the hook all the time. I say, no, if you want to change your relationship, you can't change anything unless you take 100% accountability for results you get. And if I'm talking to the men, and I do men only classes, I teach men, I'm like a Marine sergeant. I tell them every single thing that happens in your relationship, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. But you see, I'm not in a blame game. I'm in an accountability realization. If you want to change, if you're motivated to change, you have to look at how you have to change the way you think, how you feel, how you react, how you date, how you respond, when you have sex, how you have sex, all those things. It's about our power inside of ourselves to change is the only thing that can change the outer world, not trying to go out and change a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so powerful, so powerful. And I'm seeing some of the comments coming in, John, and people are saying things like this is this is like the ultimate growth opportunity or the journey of life. And I do believe the journey to love, and you're talking a lot about love and that inner wisdom that can come from love and from life. I do believe it's like the journey of life. I believe this is really ultimately one of the biggest journeys that all of us are on as human beings in our lives, is to find that path to love. Not just love with an intimate partner, but love, to become beings of love.
Yeah, to be a being of love, it's actually very scary. And, when I go into my love space, also, one aspect of pure love is choice. See, when you pick a partner, that moment where you're falling in love, you're choosing this person for a lifetime. Okay, that's what what love is. I'm choosing this. And how many times as we get older that we choose things that it didn't work out?
Yeah.
I chose this and it didn't work out. I chose this investment. I chose this car. I chose this person. I chose this situation. When you love, you're making a choice. And that's the ultimate state of human existence, is to recognize we do have free will. Free will is choosing. I choose this. I'm free. I can choose this or not choose this. And when you're loving, you're choosing. You're not trying to change. You're choosing this moment. And it's a very scary thing, because the more we have failed in life, been hurt by life, we're afraid to choose that this is the situation I'm in. But it is the adventure you're talking about. It's the journey. And we all just sort of open up to this pure love state. And then we become afraid. Okay, we become afraid. And we may not even feel what we feel when the fear is there. You know, if somebody's angry, I could say to them, you know, you're also afraid. They go, oh, I'm not afraid. I'm just saying what's right. I said, no, I think you're quite afraid. If you were actually cool, calm, and collected and trusting, there'd be no big deal here. You wouldn't be trying to argue with me or change me. And certainly you wouldn't be upset with me. So we don't always know the layers of what we're feeling inside, but deep inside, we're all here in this great journey of life to learn how to love. And it is the most beautiful moment, you know, where you're just choosing every moment, choosing the moment. And when we think about the bigger picture of life and everything we've gone through and the ups and downs and so forth, choosing, being present, you know, people talk about being present is choosing this moment. It's important to have a sense of grace, that actually, if you can look back on your life and realize, take a moment to imagine that you're where you want to be. You would have never gotten here had not all those mishaps taken place. So, you know, when I look at my life, I feel so blessed. I'm so grateful. That's another part of being able to feel choice. I'm so grateful. And I would have not gotten here had this person not cheated me, had this marriage not had failed. My first marriage was 2 years and it was a failure. It was my wife fell in love with another man. I felt devastated. I felt this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. But then, you know, it took me about a year to heal my heart after that, you know, and after that, I called up my wife, Bonnie, who I dated before. I wanted to marry her, but she didn't want to marry me. And I said, I've changed. I have wisdom. I'm better. And when we have a beautiful family, we lived 34 years together. I would have never had that opportunity if I'd stayed in that other marriage. You know, so what we have to recognize, if we can look back at our life with gratitude and forgiveness. Now, to forgive, there's a great definition of forgiveness from Jerry Jampolsky, which is, forgiveness is looking in the past and realizing it couldn't have been any other way. Mm-hmm. You see, it's like for me, I needed that my first wife to fall in love with another man and cheat on me. Otherwise, I would have never left, because I'm a real stay in there kind of guy. Yeah. I needed an explosion to happen to get me out of that marriage, because I'm all about love and commitment and fidelity and everything. But that did it. And that, from one level, freed me then to find Bonnie, my true love in life, my soulmate. But I would have never done that had that not happened. And then I look at many of the mistakes I made, and had I not made those mistakes, I couldn't have learned the lessons that I've learned in life and gained the wisdom that I have now. So it's to be grateful for our lessons, to be grateful for the mishaps, as well as the accomplishments and the achievements and the help that we've gotten, both. And sometimes we can't feel actually gratitude that somebody cheated us or whatever directly. Thank you for doing that to me. But we can, first step is thank you for what I've learned from that. But now I go back on those big mistakes, all those bad things, and go, thank you for doing that to me. Literally, that's wisdom, is when you realize it couldn't have happened any other way, because you're on a journey and you had to learn, and this planet of earth level school, you know, this is a place we're learning to love. And to think about it very simply, if I want to build muscles, which I don't care that much about muscles, quite honestly, I just want good, strong muscles. I don't need to be a big guy, but I go to the gym once a week. That's good enough. So I'm always building a little more muscle mass. That's what I like, is to keep growing. I'm always getting more, a little bit more. And I have to go to the gym and I have to pick up heavier and heavier weights, and there I can grow. Well, if we want to grow in love, what happens? We're going to be challenged. And I think besides just love in life, what we want to grow in is our authenticity, is to realize that we're on a journey. We're in the process of learning who we are, expressing our best self. And as we're in that journey, and that becomes our motivation in life, that we're growing, then it's easier to love.